Everything should be okay. Let's see if that is the case. But yeah, we should be live for a look at the dev server again. It's a lot easier to look at these live because the dev server can change quite a lot. So yeah, hello. So, the dev server for, what is it? I keep forgetting what the actual update name is. Line of contact? That's it. A lot of interesting naval stuff. Especially addition-wise, and some minor quality of life stuff as well, and some major quality of life, but we'll get to it. I think, as usual, I'll just go over all the new ships first. So, looking at the Americans, we have 2 new blue water ships, one being USS Forrest Sherman, 5-3, rank 4 destroyer, sitting after the Charles of Adams. I mean, yeah, it's a Forrest Sherman. It's a pretty famous American destroyer. It has 3 of those rapid-fire long 5-inch guns, some 3-inch anti-air guns, some anti-submarine torpedoes, okay, which are meh. Don't remind me of that trick, but yeah. One problem though. Those are some exposed magazines. Especially for the super firing rear turret. Like even the rearmost turret has above waterline magazine. The front one is barely below waterline, but it's wide enough that you can still arc shells into it. USS Hull would be very neat. But yeah, Forrest Sherman, a very famous American destroyer, definitely nice. 46,000 RP is also not too expensive. Not much to say, really. I do think 5-3 is still kind of rough, especially for destroyers like these. But I guess we'll see how they'll perform in game. Other than that, we go on to the next vehicle addition, being USS South Dakota, but first, I want you to look at the Iowa and how it's a sleek-looking battleship. Because when we... just trick, but I'll look at them again. But then we look at South Dakota compared to the long, sleek Iowa. And it's just so stubby. And I love it. South Dakota also coming in at rank 783, which is interesting. And a 1945 fit, so just bristling with anti-aircraft guns. Compared to the Iowa, it does have shorter guns, so the gun performance isn't quite the same. Armor is unfinished, I think, or does it have... No, it has the same thing going on. It's a similar armor layout with a outer torpedo, little belt, you could call it, and the main belt hidden inside. South Dakota is definitely a very nice addition. It being 8-3 is a bit of a surprise, but I guess its performance does warrant it, with slightly worse guns. But compared to Iowa, I can't get over just how stubby the ship is. But it does look fantastic. Just gonna really quickly look at the Forrest Sherman's magazines again. And I'll look at the X-ray of the South Dakota actually as well. So yeah, rear turret pokes above the waterline. The super firing rear turret is just right out there. Both 3-inch magazines are just out there. There's no submarine news, kind of, but I'll get to that later. Front magazine is just below waterline, but probably wide enough you can arc shells into it. All in all, it's probably going to be a bit of a fragile ship because it doesn't have any anti-frag armor like the... So yeah, it's not... I don't know. Probably not going to be overpowered, but that's a good thing. Let's look at the X-ray for South Dakota, actually. Because I thought as much. It has this weird propeller arrangement with the inner ones actually kind of being, yeah, closer to the hull. I think it's a north. It's one of the American fast battleships that has them like way further ahead than the outboard ones, but I don't remember which one it is. As with most American late battleships, you have the same barbette shell room issue. It is probably the same where you can remove the top layer if you take reduced ammo load. So that is good. But yeah, looks promising. Moving on to Germany, we have 2 additions. First of which being Lutyens. So sitting in the rank 4, 5.3, 33,000 RP, nice and cheap. And it is basically just a German Charles F. Adams. With the biggest change being the fact it's a single arm launcher, not a twin arm launcher as the Adams. So just for a comparison again, this is a twin arm launcher of the Adams. And then we go to the single arm launcher on the Lutyens. Still carries a similar amount of missiles, I believe. I'd have to check. Yeah, 41 missiles. Yes, it is also faster reload, significantly faster. 10 seconds to 8 second reload compared to the Adams with a... Okay, cruise skills are influenced, but a 20 second reload. I'm not sure if any of them are better per se, because technically speaking, it's the same amount of missiles per minute. And I wouldn't really call one better than the other. That's interesting. I think that is the reload rack for the ASRock. That's modeled right there. But yeah, it means it is another missile destroyer. So Germany now has their missile destroyer, making it 3 nations with missile destroyers. Bit of a shame that Britain doesn't have one, but oh well. Another addition to Germany is the, well, East German, is it East? Yeah, East German MPK 1331. But this one is different from the Russian one. The front COS mount is a dual barrel 30mm instead of the 6 barrel one, and the main armament is actually a twin 57. Just to refresh everybody, the Russian 1331 has a 6 barrel COS mount and a single 76 in the rear. However, the German one is a battle rating of 4.3. And okay, this 57 does carry armor-piercing rounds, and they're not too bad. 4.3 is a bit rough for a quite slow frigate. It does mean that this thing can theoretically face those missile destroyers, and that's, you know, a bit rough. And some quite dangerous cruisers. Anyways, yeah, welcome to Hydra Coastal, I guess. It does give Germany another frigate, and it does give them a frigate together with their already quite fun 4-3 lineup. So, I'm not complaining too much, I just don't think it's all that good of a frigate. I haven't heard many good things from a friend playing the Russian 1331M. Speaking of, the Russians have one new addition, and that is the somewhat infamous Stalingrad. And yeah, it is a huge battlecruiser with very potent guns. These guns being 12-inch 62 calibers long, which make them incredibly long guns. And with a, yeah, battlecruiser reload rate. With a 20-second maximum reload rate. One thing of note, though, is those shell rooms, they're high up, aren't they? The magazines are also dangerously close to the waterline for all of the turrets, and even better, it has practically no armor. I've seen some people already complain about, oh, those guns are really dangerous, they shouldn't be at 7.7. This thing is a pushover. There's going to be heavy cruisers that can be able to kill this and pen this. with all of the ammunition also being well and clearly above the waterline. This ship is the definition of a glass cannon. But a glass cannon it is, with very dangerous sap and incredibly dangerous AP. So yeah, it's a cool ship. It is one of those, you know, Soviet. It's one of those Soviet ships they laid down, started construction, couldn't finish it because of the war. Another actually funny detail is, do you see these objects on the ears of the turrets? Those, although I don't think they're modeled, are radars, to my knowledge. So instead of having optical rangefinders in the turrets, it just had a pair of radar detectors. Which is interesting, to say the least. But yeah, Stalingrad is a very cool battle cruiser edition. And to a 7-7 lineup, it's very nice. It actually gives you a backup spawn to Arkhangelsk. Although how much value you'll get out of it, I don't know. But arguably a better backup spawn to Soyuz if you didn't want to, you know, backup. If you don't use any backups and just use 3 tech-3 ships, Soyuz, Arkhangelsk, Stalingrad. Yeah, seems fun. I will get to the Oyodo in due time, don't worry. Another thing I want to mention about the Kronstadt specifically, is as you might have noticed here, is it has a new seaplane. So let me show you that one first. Just silence the anti-air guns. So let's wait for the seaplane. You can already see it on the catapult, but it is a different model. Sovietsky Soyuz also has this new seaplane. Like on Tessel Sovietsky Soyuz, so you'll have to do with Kronstadt. There we go. It's a bit of a funky looking plane. Has a rear gunner, has a nose-mounted 7.62, I believe. And yeah, and 2 100-kilo bombs. It's a very neat plane. It's not that fast, so I wouldn't say it's a overly competitive float plane. But it having an offensive armament, it being, you know, a new plane, is neat. This is indeed, I believe, the same float plane that was in the files when these ships were introduced. So, yeah, but it's neat to see them come to the game. I'll get to that as well. But yeah, I'll get to that. Anyways, next in line we have the British with 2 new additions. One being HMS Fiji. If I'm not mistaken, let me actually look back. A Crown Colony? Yeah, Colony class cruiser. I'm not complaining. It's also very neat to see. 5.7, you know, British light cruiser that we're all familiar with. A very funky rangefinder layout there on the rear superfiring turret. A little light on the anti-armament with having 2 octuple pom-poms and a bunch of 50 cals. But a very cool ship nonetheless, and it also comes with a float plane. I believe it's a Walrus. So yeah, also VT for the main and secondary guns. Very nice to see more cruisers. That is what I've been wanting to see as well, just more cruisers for both trees. Gives me a good excuse to actually play these BRs again. Second up, we have the incredibly famous and much sought after HMS Prince of Wales, the first proper King George V class battleship. Shockingly, coming in at a BR of 7.7, which I was surprised about. I thought it would have been, you know, equal to Vanguard at 8.8. But it coming at 7.7, I am not complaining about. That's going to be a very nice addition to that lineup. Terms of anti-air, has a very heavy anti-air suite. 6 octuple pom-poms. Lots of, well, a handful of 20 mils. A single normal Bofors, which does have a weird quirk. And then the 5.25-inch gun turrets and secondaries. The weird part is that for some reason, this singular Bofors is actually paired with the secondary guns in the test drive. So, strange, but dev server things. Also, the armor is as of yet incomplete on the dev server, so I can't actually properly look at what it would be. So yeah, it does have a 14-inch belt, and it is not really inclined that much, but again, dev server, I can't really tell what the armor will be like. No internal turtlebacks as of yet that we can see. Very good deck armor though. That should make it quite bomb resistant. The magazines, let's see, are decently low in the water, but they are quite wide, so I wouldn't be surprised if you could actually get ammo racked. Although we'll have to see how much protection you actually have around these ammo racks. Also nice to see is that the fire rate of the main guns, let me reset the filter, is a normal battleship reload rate. So it doesn't have a slow reload rate, it doesn't like the Rodney with 35 seconds. Aced crew, 30 seconds reload. Perfect. The shells, as some of you might have already been wondering, are a little... They're not bad. I think they're still more than serviceable at this BR. But I do think they're the main reason why it's not at 8.0. They're a little bit anemic for being a top battleship contender. But against super dreadnoughts, I think more than fine. You might struggle a bit with the in-up tiers and against really modern fast battleships. But I think the shells look okay for the most part. So yeah, also if I'm reading over your questions, don't be ashamed to just ask your question again, because I do sometimes miss if I see stuff in the chat. But that's it for British editions, so no coastal editions, just HMS Fiji and Prince of Wales. Two very nice editions that I cannot wait to get my hands on. Then moving on to Japan, with my favorite edition and a ship I've been wanting to see for literal years, IGN Oyodo. A unique light cruiser with two Mogami class 6-inch gun turrets on the front, not 5-inch gun turrets, aircraft facilities, aircraft catapult, 100mm secondaries, and at a battle rating of 5.3. Absolutely fantastic. Because that means you can put it in a lineup together with a Gano. It is genuinely, I'm so happy that this is being added. Armor-wise, it is standard for Japanese cruisers, not particularly thick, but 60 mils and 75 round of magazines is not bad for 5.3. And yeah, as I said, the first one with the 100 mil secondaries, I love it. And she is indeed the first Japanese ship in game with 100mm secondaries. There's not many ships outside of carriers that actually carry this gun as secondaries, so I'm happy to see it. It also comes to us in a late war refit, so it does have quite, a handful of 25s as well, which is lovely. It also has a seaplane, and with it, I do want to show another new feature. It does have time fuse. Here's the funny thing, though. Actually, good that you mention it before I go over the X-ray. There's no modification for the 100mm time fuse, but it does get a 100mm time fuse shell. It doesn't get its stock. For some reason, the 100mm time fuse shell is a hidden modification that I could only unlock once I unlocked everything else and I had to click the spend RP button. I don't know why the TF round is hidden as a modification, but it is there. It does exist. Although, weirdly, let me actually test it so I can show you. The 100 mils currently do not target aircraft. So let me just take manual control of the 25s. So yeah, the 100 mils will just not even try to target the aircraft. And just to show you that it's not the AI in general, the 25s will track it and will start opening up on it. But the 100 mils, of course, it just shut it down. The 100 mils don't track aircraft. I'm assuming it's just dev server things, because those mounts are definitely anti-air mounts. It does get the E13. It doesn't get the E15, it gets the E13. And that's the other thing I want to show you. In the X-ray view in the hangar, you can now hover over the scout plane, and it'll tell you what plane it is, what armament it has, very nice quality of life. It is very, very nice. So I actually do want to look at, for example, Miyoko, because I know it launches the wrong one. See? So it has the E13 model, but it'll tell you it's launching the F1M. It has 2 bombs, 2 machine guns, and a defensive gun. Very neat. Because now you no longer have to guess whether or not what plane it launches. Although you do actually need to have the hydroplane modification unlocked, of course, because if you unselect it, uninstall it, then the plane doesn't show up on the X-ray. So you do need it unlocked to know what plane it is. But that's very nice. As you might have noticed, Tulsa, but we'll get into that later because I have figured out, actually, it's not that I figured out, somebody has told me how to look at the Tulsa in the hangar, but I do need to do some config file modifications, so we'll get to that later. Italy has 2 new modifications. Also, you can see the hydroplane in the hangar and hover over it. Lovely. 2 new additions. One is kind of surprising, the Armando Diaz, rank 3 cruiser, and it is the TAC 3 equivalent to the current Battle Pass cruiser, which is really strange. It's the first time I've seen that happen in game, but I am not complaining, because now you have a free equivalent to the exact same cruiser as you have in the Battle Pass. This one right here. Let's see if I can... Yep. So this, you're under the Battle Pass. It's the exact same cruiser, but the TAC 3 one is actually slightly better because it has torpedoes. So nice. It's, you know, nice to see a otherwise time-locked exclusive coming to the TAC 3 with actually a better armament. And then the next addition is Cassiopeia. A Cassiopeia class gunboat, interestingly enough. This is not a frigate. This thing has a coastal spawn, and it looks incredibly modern. It has a 76 in the front, not a Melara, as we're familiar with. It has 2 Oerlikon 20 mils on the bridge, and a helicopter hangar, although no helicopters inside yet. I don't think it'll actually get a helicopter, but still. It's, you know, cool ship. I have heard quite a few people call it a fishing trawler, and I can understand why. But hey, cool boats are cool boats. It also does actually have the blue water damage model and the coastal spawn, so this will make another very nice coastal vessel to the 3-7 lineup. Fantastic. Then we get to France, which only has 1 addition, to my knowledge. And that is the Suffren, another Suffren class heavy cruiser. The difference between this and Colbert, to my knowledge, is just more anti-air, and that's it. But still, I'm not complaining about, you know, more lineup actual bolstering of lineups. I don't want to call it filler, because it's not filler. It's actual bolstering of lineups, because now you have a 3-ship 5-3 lineup. Very nice. So, in short, almost all nations are getting mid-tier editions, which are quite cheap, and they're quite often very, very cool ships as well. So France is getting a mid-tier cruiser. Italy is getting a mid-tier cruiser. Japan is getting a mid-tier cruiser. England, mid-tier cruiser and a new famous battleship. Russia, a famous battlecruiser. Germany is getting a missile destroyer. And America is getting a gun destroyer and a famous big battleship. So, blue water-wise, very nice. Kind of light on coastal editions, but that's not a bad thing necessarily, especially since they're top-tier coastals. It takes a while to get them. So having more of them isn't really a bad thing. That's the event ship, but that's for another time. So yeah, all around, very nice vehicle additions. Now, there are some other changes, as you might have noticed here. I don't know how to showcase this, but let's see if this is visible. Yeah. So what they've done is they've changed the visuals of all naval minimaps to make it so that the water is the same color. And I think I did. So let's go back in that. But I'm never sure if the Corsa was... Yeah, Corsa is actually new this update. I completely forgot about it. Oh boy. I forgot to write it down in my notes here. That's why I forgot. So, back to the new ship editions. The Corsa is the premium equivalent of the newly added Brestois and a lower battle rating because it doesn't have the 100mm at the rear. It only has the 57s. And in my opinion, I don't think that's going to be a very good ship. Because these 57s only have high explosive. And it's not particularly good high explosive. Okay, it does have a lower battle rating at 4.0. But what does it cost? Yeah, no, I would never, ever buy this as your grinding tool for French coastal. I think it's going to be way, way too difficult to actually use this ship effectively. So I wouldn't recommend it. If you wanted a premium for France to get your coastal grinding, Esne, because coastal spawn good guns. But this, no. Just no. But I think that also means that there's only one premium ship edition this update. Unless I've missed another one, but I don't think I have. So yeah. Just gonna look at the X-ray again. I love this feature, that's fantastic. Anyways. So minimap unification, as I was rambling on about. They changed it so that the watercolor on all minimaps is the same. It has led to some... Yeah, I think they did it a bit... Some maps I have done it pretty well, but you can see some artifacts, let's call it. Same around here, around this island. But that's the only change they really did to minimaps, is they changed the watercolor so that they're all the same. You can see though that, yeah, it's... Sometimes it's rough trying to change, you know, it's the thing is, I've worked with these kind of tools as well, and I do know it's a right pain to try and smoothly change the color. But yeah, it also kind of makes some maps look worse, because you can... What on earth has happened to this minimap? Never mind. Because the thing is, those maps were made with a color palette, so having just crudely changed all like one color in all of them has made some maps look weird. Because, for example, North Sea used to have a very light colored water, so the islands being this light color makes sense, but because the water is now dark, it kind of stands out. Norway's... Oh no. Yeah, I think it was a little bit of a crude change. I understand wanting to do the change. Oh god, please. But then they didn't change these maps' watercolors. You see that? But I think it's because on these maps the watercolor actually indicates depth as well. So that's why they didn't do it. Because yeah, on this one doesn't have depth, so it's the same. But it isn't the same color. This isn't the same color as this. I'll assume there's still some dev server shenanigans going on, so let's not criticize it too much just yet. This I can't really show too clearly in a custom in battle, I think. Actually, can I? Hold on, let me try if I can showcase it. Because it would help. Let's see. So let's have no aviation. I think there needs to be an option there where you use the some battle system, but I don't think it's an option. Anyways, so basically what happened is that the random aircraft spawn in naval has changed a bit. So instead of being a completely random aircraft from a list that you see in battle, the aircraft is predetermined in your lineup. So you can see the aircraft in your lineup, and you can actually change its loadouts as well before you spawn it, which you couldn't do with the current random aircraft spawn. They've also expanded the list of random aircraft you can get in naval and ground, but that's a separate mechanic that I don't really want to get into. So that's good. Actually, that's this topic. This one as well. Most of you probably know that in rough weather or bad visibility weather, you're forced to spawn in the airfield unless you disable that option. Well, that option is now permanently disabled in naval battles. In rough weather or bad weather, you will no longer be forced to spawn on the runway in naval. This topic is probably the most important and interesting one. The severe damage and heavy damage mechanics for naval. They are incredibly satisfying to use. I have, as you've seen with, I've grinded out Oyodo, and the severe damage mechanic and the heavy hit thing are incredibly satisfying. The fact that damage done to ships is also now purely transitioned to crew damage, very nice. Incredibly nice. I haven't actually tried it with battleships yet, as I've just been playing the cruisers to get Oyodo, but the severe damage mechanic felt satisfying, damage felt more consistent to get, and very, very quick to get. The heavy hit doesn't really do much, but it is an extra reward you can get. It's very nice. It's a bit difficult to showcase that mechanic, of course, without going into a game, but my games have been a bit troublesome on a dev server, as they have been crashing my games with a bug that I hope doesn't come to life. So I've been having a bug where after a certain amount of time in a match, if I lock onto a target, the game will loop and constantly, really rapidly lock onto a target, which causes massive frame rate drops and eventually crashing of the game. I hope this is just a dev server bug, because if that goes to live, the game's going to be unplayable. But oh well. Other than that, there was some mention of blast damage from TNT being recalculated and fragmentation patterns or fragment count of AP, HE, and heat shells being changed. So I don't know how that'll affect naval. I didn't notice much of it whilst grinding Oyodo. Who knows? But now you'll have to bear with me for a moment, because I have to do some config file changes for a hidden ship. So just bear with me for a moment and look at that pretty screenshot I made. I do have to close the dev server for that as well. And I hope it works on the first try. Intermission indeed. You should still be able to hear me, I hope. Because otherwise you'll just have to wait a bit. Let's see if this works. And hello, Striker. The Italian frigate cannot launch a helicopter. That's not in its package, at least for the time being. Let's see if it worked first time. It did. Okay. So let's see if you're all back now. You should be. There we go. And the chat function does lose it a bit, but there we have it, and you can see it in the background. Tulsa. this is the event ship for the winter event. And I'm kind of surprised. I'm really surprised we're getting a Tulsa. Of course, it being a hidden ship that you need to like find a way around to preview. Its armor viewer is incomplete. Its X-ray is actually looking pretty good. And those are just below waterline shells, I think. Although, yeah, doesn't quite look right, those shell rooms. That one at least. But yeah, this is the winter event. And let's see if I can actually... Yeah, also if I go into the modification screen, broken. But here you can see, new vehicle, event vehicle, winter tails. Does mention the wrong year, but again, very much a work in progress ship. So yeah, it is genuinely surprising to see, and I am going to get it. It does mean that this is that Japan is genuinely almost out of battleships to add. I think there's like 2 more ships Japan could possibly get as battleships, and that's it. Other than that, we have every single Japanese battleship in game. Of course, Kaga and Akagi can be excluded because those will be the carriers. Shinano probably as well. But yeah, a Japanese 8.0 16-inch armed battleship. And does it have the same rate of fire? Of course it does. I think that's the same rate of fire as Amagi. Let me actually check. Amagi. No, it is a... It's a faster... Is it the Nagato reload rate? Because that would be wild. Oh my god, it's a Nagato reload rate. So for some reason I can't click on the Tulsa again. Did I break it? Hold on. I might have broken it. But yeah. Apparently, at least the work in progress version has the same reload rate as Nagato. So all in all, that is actually it for naval. So very, very nice additions. Tulsa coming as an event vehicle. Severe damage being introduced to naval, which is really, really good, because that should help with the kill credit problem a little bit. Damage being now completely dependent on crew kill or crew damage and not whole section damage as well, which was wild. I didn't even know there was a thing. But yeah, that is pretty much it for the dev server. I don't know why I can't click on those ships anymore. Let's see if I swap over to a different hangar and then back. As maybe because I have X-ray on. There it is. There we go. We can look back at it. I think carriers will happen eventually. When? Who knows? A few other things. We have more data. Like, the dev server is always crazy with data mines. And I don't really want to share a lot of them because they're always a bit hit or miss whether or not they're actually coming or they're for future things. There were a lot of ship names data mined, but I did notice that most of those data mined ships are actually sisters or, you know, closely related to ships we already have in game. So I'm not really thinking too much of it. I did see somebody in the chat mention earlier about the Kagero data mine. I genuinely think it's just a sister to the Yukikaze. And they just could choose which one they wanted to add. Because another thing I want to mention is that with the model leak like 3 summers ago, or 3 years ago in the summer, we had both Scharnhorst and Gneiss now in 11-inch refit. So I'm not actually too sure if the superstructure is wrong as as I can zoom in. I can zoom in a lot. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what the inaccuracies are compared to a Magi. Although I do, I'm not too sure about the turrets. Anyways, I am looking forward to getting it. It's going to be, another fine addition to my Japanese lineup. On the topic of submarines as well, we are not getting this update. We just aren't. But there is more data mines regarding them, especially compared to sonar. There's a lot of sonar stuff being data mined. More refinements in that regard. The thing is, we know submarines are happening. They've said verbatim that submarines are being worked on. They just need to do the final thoughts about implementing, I think. Yeah, exactly. Submarines are coming. It's just a matter of when. Well, the thing is, that's exactly the problem they're having with it, I believe. They don't know how to implement them and have them be fun. At least that's my take from what they said in the dev Q&A. But anyways, yeah, that's it for the naval side. If there's any other questions you have about the dev server, do feel free to ask me. But I am going to now step away from Tulsa and reload the normal hangar because there is some stuff that's a bit buggy. So I'll look at all this stuff after the next little intermission again. So do give me a moment whilst I switch back to the normal hangar. Where are we here? I highly doubt we'll see homing torpedoes. I don't think they'll be, like, as an anti-submarine weapon. I think that'll be too unfun, especially for sticking to World War II submarines. They're going to have enough trouble moving around the map and actually doing stuff that having them deal with homing torpedoes as well. I don't see that happening. I could be wrong. I could always be wrong, but I just don't see it happening. Okay, let's see if it works again. It's going to take a while for the stream to catch up. There we go. I don't actually know. I did notice that the last time I used the RBUs are a bit weird at long range with their lead, but you can always kind of try, but I don't know if they're going to be reliable at long range. Trek, do you need me to actually look at the Ajax, or is it anything specific you want to look at? Because for all intents and purposes, the naval only section is done. If you only cared about the naval stuff, you can still ask questions. I'll still look at it. But if there's any other questions as well, I'll look into it whilst I'm still on the dev server. Another funny thing I've noticed actually is that Oyoda doesn't have any unlockable camos yet, which is a shame because I would have unlocked them both. I'm almost certain of it in the time I've actually played it on the dev. So yeah. Another thing you might have noticed, and that is something I'm actually kind of looking forward to as well, is that every now and then you saw the screen like fade to black for just a moment before showing the ship again. Actually, I think these haven't returned. I just have never switched them off, is why. Because I changed that on the first dev server and I never changed them back. But I'm probably, if I do this... Yeah, like now it's back to German Empire, but if I want to change it to the one I had, I can no longer do that. I've also noticed it's only really a thing for my dev server, it's not on the live server. But yeah. It's not that I've returned, it's just that they I still had them selected from last dev server, so yeah. Speaking of RBUs, I only really have one ship with the RBUs, and that is the 204, so let's see if that's actually reliable, I guess. It should be within rocket range. Also, actually, before that,
Destroyer.
this stuff right here, that outline on the hull and these segments underneath it, I don't actually know what that's for. Because it's not mentioned in the patch notes anywhere, and I don't actually know what it does. So let's launch some RBUs. See if we'll get anywhere closer to target. I mean, yeah, but I don't know why it's a thing. Let's see if this... Yeah, RBUs are still short. So you still have to aim a bit high, I believe. Still misses. Well, let's see if I can showcase it on this coastal without killing it instantly. By shooting it with the guns. I mean, yes, one thing that is nice is that it does clearly show you the delineation between where the segments actually are. But I don't quite understand what the bar underneath it's for. Because somebody said, oh, maybe it'll help with visibility of internal modules because it won't color the entire section black. But it does still color the entire section black. So I don't know why those bars underneath are a thing. Because in my opinion, just the outlines on the actual hull are enough. But yeah. Yeah, but Trick, why do you need it when the hull itself already has the color? Like, that color also exists on blue water vessels. Of course, this gun is not going to do much in terms of that damage.
Target on fire.
But yeah, but it's not easier to see, in my opinion. Okay, can you tell at a glance that this section is more damage than the ones around it because of the bar? Part of me was also a bigger fan of the old perma-flooding mechanic, but it is what it is. But yeah, I don't understand why there's a colored bar underneath the sections. It doesn't make sense to me. And again, there is no actual, like, patch notes about it. I don't know what the actual reason for them being there is, nor for this glow around your own ship. Especially seeing as some sections are less colored than others. It's very strange. But before I was distracted. There was a thing you can do now with certain vehicles. Where's the Ajax? There it is. If you click on them, the screen goes to black and they start moving. And this should also become a feature for ships. It isn't yet, but it should become one. And I'm kind of looking forward to that, just for a little bit of flair. And there's the internal... I probably shouldn't have used the Ajax as an example, but yeah, the internal modules also turn with the animation. But yeah, the dev server being dev server, I guess. But it's also... I'm going to look at aircraft as well, because there's some cool stuff for aircraft. There we go. Probably one of the better examples as well. Those weapon cradles are now a thing. I think it only shows the things you have unlocked. Yeah, it only shows the missiles you have unlocked. But if you go look at a... Hold on, where is it? A premium aircraft, for example. Just, yeah, weapon cradles all around. And you can just look at them. And it'll give you the weapon stats. And this, I find very cool for aircraft. That it's only really an aircraft thing. And you can, you know, hide it if you want to. Although, it seems you need to do something about the shadows. But it's neat. One fun one to look at, for example, is of course the Lancasters with their big bombs. Just all laid out in front of them. So yeah. Oh, I actually also forgot you can actually click on the aircraft as well. So if you click on the aircraft, they'll start their engines. I think, do the bombers actually move their turrets? I'm not sure. But they'll start moving their flaps, they'll start moving their rudders, their ailerons. Which is neat, you know. And because you asked the question, yes, Japan is getting an Su-30, and I think it is from Malaysia, although it is not indicated as one yet, but I believe it is from Malaysia. And it has a an assortment of weapons. And I think, can I click on it as well? Yes. So you can see cockpit opens. And I think for jets, it'll actually also go into full afterburner. So let's see that happen. Flaps. So this aircraft is super shiny for some reason. Yep, there it goes. Goes into afterburner. Yeah, just very neat. Air brake deployed, and I think you just click on it again to make it stop. I think the fade to black is a little bit annoying, but it's not that long. And yeah, ships are supposed to get that mechanic as well. And you can kind of see it because if you, I think, no, it's not this one, but you can click on ships sometimes. It was working earlier today. And they'll fade to black, but they won't actually move. So yeah. All in all, really fantastic update. I am incredibly happy with it. Can't wait for it to come out, because especially that severe damage and damage credit overhaul for naval, it was really comfortable while playing the Oyodo. And I can't wait to see it on live. I have noticed, let's actually look at some fun tanks. It's not in Germany, I want to look at Russia. This one. Some tanks, if you click on them, so their auxiliary turrets will also move, but their main turrets will move very slowly, and not all of the turrets moves. It seems if they have 3 weapon groups, it kind of only does 2 of them. So this one will do the machine gun turrets and the main turret, but not the 45 mils. And the turret moves very slightly. Also, as you may have already noticed, for some reason, the ground hangar has now like a special hangar for all the premium vehicles, which I find a little bit strange. And actually, speaking of the hangar, the naval hangar has an overhaul. I like it, but at the same time, it's still a little bit bare. Because the thing I've noticed is you can only see 1 additional ship in your lineup. So if you have, let's see. There we go. So you can only see 2 vehicles in your lineups. So yeah, you used to see like 4, I believe. You had 1 close and then 2 in the background you could see. But now it's just 1 ship and the premium ship. The bridge is nice. I'm actually, speaking of dry docks, when you click on the premium, there's dry docks right there. There's docks right there and piers, and why can't we use like this section as our actual hangar? Why can't there be ships in those? But yeah. We can only see 2 ships, whilst with the air hangar, let me actually populate this with some aircraft. Doesn't really matter which. Yeah. You can actually see up to 4 aircraft in the hangar for aircraft. So you can see 1 there on the taxiway, 2 there parked, and your main vehicle. There's none there. So you can see 4 vehicles in your lineup in the aircraft hangar. And the same is true for ground. If you look at a ground lineup, let me go and look at the ground lineups. You will have 3 vehicles in those little garages as well. So a total of 4. But for some reason, if you look at your naval lineup, you just see your selected ship and 1 other ship. So yeah. It also doesn't really scale well with coastals. Hold on. So if I put a coastal in there, but that's always been a problem really, that the coastals kind of look small in the hangar. I don't know why the Amagi's still there, even though it's not my lineup, but oh well. So yeah, it's. I do like the flair of having that bridge in front of us. It's still not perfect, not to me at least. But whilst I was looking at the aircraft, torpedoes, but the Japanese torpedoes are clipping into each other a little bit. But I do love this little cradle look with all the weapons laid out in front. Like, where is a good plane to look at? Although this one has a very small selection of bombs, it's still neat. Yeah, I kind of agree that World Warships does have a bit of a better naval hangar. But I think for air and ground is good enough, but just, yeah. A bit bare bones for naval. Are those ships on the horizon still out there? But yeah, and the current ones. I think somebody has actually identified them at one point. They were a Bismarck, a Yamato, and I think a standard type battleship, like a Tennessee. Something, or an Arizona, that was it. It was a Yamato, a Bismarck, and an Arizona. And I think because all 3 of those had RRB models, like the really low poly models, and those are the ones you can see way in the background. But yeah, I understand. I would love for a more busy port, even if you had like just like civilian ships, well, like, you know, floating about, or some, you know, small coastals, like dipping and weaving in between the large ships. That would be fantastic, but we don't, sadly. Yeah. If there are any more questions, do ask them. Because I think I'll just quickly summarize all the boats again and probably call it a night. So until further questions come in, let's just start with the summary. So, America has 2 new additions, Forrest Sherman and South Dakota. Forrest Sherman being a famous gun-only armed destroyer with 3 of the rapid-fire 5-inch guns, 2 dual 3-inch for anti-air, some anti-submarine torpedoes. No. Oh. You see there, the fade to black and the radar doing things, but yeah. It sometimes does that. X-ray does look a bit rough. Magazines are quite exposed on the ship, and with no armor, probably not going to fare too well. But cool boat. South Dakota is an extremely cool boat, and very squishy, well, squished compared to Iowa. Does come in a late war refit, so there's anti-air guns everywhere. I didn't actually ever look at the shells, did I? So when you look at the penetration, it's 729, 701 meters per second, not millimeters per second, meters per second muzzle velocity. Compare this to Iowa, which has 821 millimeters of pen and 762 meters per second velocity for the same TNT equivalent. So it is a noticeably lesser amount of pen, but at 8.3 should be fine. Armor-wise is actually pretty similar to Iowa, I believe. I think a little bit less armored, but I'm not entirely sure. It has the same problem as a lot of American battleships, though, with shell rooms in the barbettes. And I think the super firing one isn't protected by the citadel. Yeah. Or actually, it just barely is, isn't it? So yeah. But if you just reduce your ammo load, you could probably get rid of the top layer of shells. Then Germany gets a Blue Water Edition with their version of the Charles of Adams with a single arm launcher, and let's actually test sail it to showcase that reload speed. So I'm just gonna... Can I have a good angle on it, you think, for the reload? The smoke's in the way.
WT bridge. Spotted on radar.
But yeah, it's a fairly quick reload.
Ahead. 2,000 meters. Closing.
But of course you do have to take into account the mount actually rotating towards reload angle. But yeah, great boat. Then Germany also gets a Coastal Edition, which is also their version of a boat we already have. The 1331 with a twin 57 in the rear and a dual 30 in the front instead of a 6-barrel 30 and a single 76. Strelas don't work because they never do, except for that one boat. Other than that, bog standard boat really. It's the same as the Russian one, but just slightly different armament. At a higher battle rating though, I believe. I think the Russian one is 4.0, and it is. And at 4.3, I don't expect great things from it. Pardon me. Then, the Blue Water editions, the Russians get one Blue Water edition, being Stalingrad, which is a very big battlecruiser, with the lightest armor of any battlecruiser I know. I think it only gets beaten out by the Congos. But the Congos, I think... Yeah, the Congos have a thicker main belt, but a thinner upper belt. But yeah, it is thin. Very good guns, though. Very good guns. Of 700 mils of penetration at 2.5 kilometers. And even at combat ranges... It does start to drop off at combat ranges, but it is, you know, still good guns. But magazines the size of Texas. So the definition of a glass cannon. Nice addition for 7.7 though. And for Britain we have Fiji. Crown Colony class cruiser. Standard British cruiser. Ammo above the waterline though, which is a bit worrying. Armor is meh, but it's a light cruiser, what do you expect? But cool nonetheless. Not that Britain was really lacking in the 5.7 battle rating. I'll look at the Eurofighter later, but I'll keep it in mind. Then, another famous edition for Britain, Prince of Wales 7.7, really nice. Armor is unfinished on the death server at the moment, but should be pretty good. Reload rate is standard for the guns. Magazines should be low enough in the water. All in all, very cool looking boat. The shells are a little bit anemic. Although they do maintain their pen values at range quite well, it's still a little bit on the lighter side. Then Japan gets a cruiser, my favorite cruiser, the Oyodo 5.3. Armament we're all familiar with, Akazuki's 100 mils as secondaries, the Suzuya's Las Mikuma's main guns as primaries, and a handful of 25s. Next to no armor to speak of, well, standard armor for a Japanese light cruiser, but that's pretty light. Magazines are actually pretty well protected because of fuel tanks. Although I think the secondary ammo is going to be a bit of a threat. Let's see. Ammo is, yeah, it's 20. I think that's 25mm above the main ammo rack. But yeah. That's it for Japan, I believe. Then we have Italy with a new cruiser, which is just a Tech 3 variant of the current Battle Pass ship, but with torpedoes, so infinitely better. And yeah, overall, very cool ship. Lightly armored, but that's to be expected of these types of Italian cruisers. Ammo is... that's poking dangerously close to the waterline, and that's wide enough to actually get hit. But we already know of the Battle Pass cruiser that it is quite a fragile ship, so yeah, don't expect too much else from this one. Coastal, we have Cassiopeia, which is very cool looking, although that is a very exposed ammo rack. And a coastal with a heavy enough gun can definitely hit that. It does historically have a helicopter hangar, but it doesn't get one in-game. Has some Oerlikons, it does get a coastal spawn and the blue water damage model, so it should be quite good. Should be quite a good little boat. No armor to speak of, though. Then France, we have a cruiser. The Suffren, which is just another Colbert, but with actual, well, not actual, just a heavier anti-air suite. I think the armor is also missing the upper belt, but I could be mistaken. It is the Death Server after all. And last, for the actual ship editions, we have the French Premium Le Corse, which is the same as the... is it the Le Brestois that got added last update, but with another 57 instead of 100mm, and thus infinitely worse that it only has HE. Don't get this boat. It is going to be a bad boat. Don't get it. But yeah, it's a very stacked naval update. It's very nice to see a lot of mid-tier editions, a lot of interesting cruiser editions as well. All round, fantastic. Now, somebody was asking Robert Richter about the Eurofighter. Which one, and what do you want to see about it? I'll probably just go for the German one. The thing is, I can't really tell you much about it, because I don't actually know much about these types of aircraft. I do think it has a special radar, doesn't it? No clue what any of that means, though. Bunch of ground ordnance, bunch of missiles. Just, yeah, another Eurofighter. I think it does actually have RST. But I don't actually know what the difference is between this and the previous one. Let me check. It is a different radar entirely. I think it's an ESA radar or something like that, right? ESEA or whatever it's called. I just don't know the specifics of all that stuff. But you can see that has some different stats on it. Actually, that search zone is quite huge. 200 by 200 degrees. But yeah, cool stuff. I think... are other nations getting this one as well? Yeah, the British are getting that as well, and I think the Italians? Yeah. So, unless there's any other specific questions, I'm going to call it here for the stream. And I am incredibly excited for this update. It should be quite soon. It should be before Christmas at the very least, because we do need to get the winter event. And I'm fairly certain Gaijin actually goes on holiday over Christmas break as well. So I'm expecting this update to be in 2 weeks, something like that. Actually, before I head off, let's look at that event vehicle, shall we? Because I have actually tested it and it does look pretty good. 4-3 is quite a high BR though. A very high BR. But
Prepare the ship for battle.
a very high rate of fire. I've actually heard that this mount has the same amount of rounds per minute as the twin mount. So it has the same rounds per minute as the as this gun. But of course, because it's only one gun, it has basically double the rate of fire than these guns do. Let me look at the overheat.
Action station. Man your post.
It's a pretty quick overheat, but it's not quick enough for you to like not be able to comfortably spray
Fighter.
a hostile coastal.
Ahead. 3,000 meters. Closing.
Action stations. Enemy spotted.
And of course, you also have a
Target
Seawiz.
identified. Boat.
Bearing. 20. 1,000 meters.
No VT. It does not have any VT on the main gun.
Flank speed.
It only has it has high explosive and armor piercing. That's it. It's pretty quick. I can see it as still being a pretty decent boat in coastal battles. Probably not the best, although it might give a PR206 a run for its money in terms of, like, you know, competitiveness. Ammo amount is actually not that bad, I think. It's 550. Whilst the dual mount has... So yeah, it's the... Ooh, it's actually half the ammo. So PR204 has... Hold on, no, it isn't. It's the same rate of... It's the same rounds per minute. So it should be the same, like, rate of depletion as 204. Should be. But yeah, that's looking good. Oh, what else? I keep forgetting about something. Something that's been data mined, but I keep forgetting about it. Yes. No, it wasn't a data mine. It was Seawiz. Apparently, and I didn't actually confirm myself yet, but I should. Apparently, on the Russian dev stream, there was mention of anti-ship missile systems. Again, I haven't actually looked up that clip myself, so I don't know the full context. But apparently they're looking into Seawiz systems properly working. Don't know. It's not something I know on being on the dev. I haven't tested it. I don't know the full context to that quote on the Russian dev stream. I need to look into it. I probably will. But not tonight. So, yeah. I'm, for real, going to call it a night here. If there are any more questions, put them in the comments, put them on my Discord server, you can find me there. And I'll try and get to them in a timely manner. So thank you all for coming to watch. I'm very much looking forward to this update, and I hope it'll be as good as it looks. So yeah, see you when the next when the next update rolls around, really. Or whenever the next time I post a video. See you hopefully soon.